staff, I said to my staff, I said, opens on Wednesday, I want no meetings the rest of the week. So they did, they wrote on there, hunting hold. Well, I've personally now scheduled meetings the last 3 weeks with all the rain and all the snow, everything else, so. Well, all right, well, hey, it's 11. We're gonna start right on time because today is a busy day. I've got myself scheduled throughout the district with some evening meetings also, but I do appreciate each and every one of you being here again. I know that when we get through these, there's always stuff that I take back and try to get answers for. And I know last time in Scottville, I was able to dig in and get some stuff for the city. But I appreciate you being here. Go Lions, eh?
You bet.
All right. My Packers finally won a football game without Rodgers, so I felt pretty good. I'm a Packers fan, so, well, good deal. Well, you're from the UP.
Yeah, you bet.
But hey, since we've been here, I know the last time we were here, the hot discussion was auto no fault. As most everybody understands, auto no fault took a pretty hard, fast crash about a week and a half ago. And I know that there's a lot of different opinions, but I will tell you the bill when it hit the floor was a much better bill than what it originally was written. There was some good things in there for the folks, I felt. I know that there was a lot of negative press saying that we were taking benefits away. It did give some choices for people, but needless to say, out of that, it did fail. My office and I, along with some other people, are back to work on it already, taking some of those points out of there that we felt were good, and we will move forward again and hopefully sometime early next year. And when I say early, I would like to say by February. We've got something back in committee and we're working on it. We need to do something in the system. We know we have a problem. Our costs continue to go up. I will give you an example, and here's what it, since our last meeting, we got the top 23 codes of medical codes. And we had them under work comp, we had them under auto no fault, personal insurance. Under personal insurance, this top 23 would have been around $4,300 and some odd dollars. Under no fault in Grand Rapids, that same bill at 43 would have been $11,700, and that same bill in Detroit would have been $19,000, and the same bill in Lansing was similar to the Grand Rapids market. So we knew that there was some pretty sizable differences, but we got some work to do, and I will tell you, we're gonna keep fighting to get it done. I know there's always a lot of stories that fly through the market before votes are taken. But the amendments that we added, or I personally added, that I felt were very strong were the protections to the insurance agents, so they made sure they fully explained to the citizen what they were getting, to make sure they had the proper coverage, because the worst thing we can do is have somebody move down to a lower level and not be properly covered. And we wanted to make sure they were protected, made sure that the insurance agent also, because we didn't want somebody to make that decision and then come back. So worked with the insurance companies on a couple of amendments or waiver forms, one for the senior citizen piece and one for the normal citizen, if they already have insurance or wraparound insurance, that they didn't need to go to the unlimited and they could save some money. Worked on the fraud side, because the fraud is an issue in the system. And I will tell you right now, I think all of us understand there's a lot of people that are out there that may have never been in an accident, but they're claiming under our auto policies and getting benefits that we need to be able to find out and make sure there was no fraud, so tightened up the fraud. And then the last piece that I had entered in was a motorcycle issue, because under our current policy or the current proposed bill, a motorcycle rider, if they were in an accident and were hit by somebody that had opted to the 250, that's all the coverage they were allowed, no matter what, even if it wasn't their fault. And we actually were able to work with the insurance companies that they would come on board, that they would take the coverage that that person that hit them had. If they only covered themselves in 250, it would revert back to their own auto policy at the level they had insured themselves at. So personally, I'm a motorcycle rider. I probably would have never opted into an out of the unlimited, but if somebody did and I was in an accident, my wife and I were struck on the motorcycle, we would exhaust what they had in their policy, then it would go to mine. So we felt very strong. There was a couple other things in there with some fee schedules and some other issues. Thought we had a pretty solid bill, and needless to say, we were 10 votes short, which is quite a sizable difference. So, yes, sir.
Can't the state government force the hospitals to charge same rates for auto accidents, the procedures and that they do for everybody else that comes in for something other than auto accidents?
That's what we try to do in this policy, or in this
Well,
bill.
that's what I thought. Now,
And it didn't happen.
And why is that?
Why is
Not
that?
lobbyists?
I'm not gonna say, there's several reasons, okay? Yes, they have a strong lobby. Number two, you also gotta remember, that some folks live in an area that the hospitals are their number one employer. Let's take Grand Rapids, we see what's happening in Grand Rapids. Let's take Rochester and that area in Detroit, with all the hospitals that have come in to do experiments and experimental stuff and studies. So those people are always gonna vote to make sure that they cover those. And I will tell you, probably another portion of it is term limits, because a person knows that if they vote a certain way in their district, people are gonna say, you're out of here.
Who would not be, what citizen would not be for having a straight across the board rate equal to like the national average?
The 52% of the people in the southeast that drive uninsured.
It's not the citizens, it's not the citizens.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, I think
They're
it's
worried about
lobbyists,
that.
it's not the
They're worried
citizens.
about that voting population. There's 43, let's just get down to, there's 63 Republicans, there's 44 Democrats. 40 of the Democrats voted no.
I know,
They
but,
voted no because they said, this affects my population and we're taking a benefit away from my population.
how could they take, if we're limiting what an insurance company pays out to a
I'm
hospital?
not arguing that.
Okay, how does that affect them?
Because they look at it and they say, I've got a population that's that we're giving them the best benefits in the world, basically for free.
let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
Were they voting against the bill as a whole? The whole package? Because either A, B, C, or D, whatever it is, they didn't like this one, because we're talking right now just one single issue.
right.
Right?
And that's the cost that the hospitals charge, the discrepancy between auto insurance versus private medical insurance.
Understand what you're saying.
And I mean, I don't see how anybody can defend that there should be.
Who and how would object to that? Just that one single issue, who in their right mind would object to that one single issue? I think that 100% of us would be on board with that.
39 of the other people did, I'm
But
gonna
there
tell
were
you that.
multiple issues.
Huh?
There were multiple.
I'm saying it's multiple, we're just talking to one issue. So,
I will tell you right now, they thought structuring a fee schedule was a terrible thing to do.
That
then that's gotta be lobbyist.
for Wayne County alone,
That would make no sense.
with what it would cost their constituency, you would think it would behoove those representatives to limit those charges. So
I was skeptical.
I will be really, I really felt we had an opportunity to get this through. I was concerned going into it when we went through the final process and started the final real negotiations the last week, because that's when things really start to come through. And we got it out of committee and we got it onto the floor. There's, there was 4 that voted for it. There was 20, I mean, we had 60, I'm gonna write 63 no votes, I believe, or 64 no votes to 55, right, 55, so yeah, it was 63, 50. It was bad.
Well, this is just another
Horrifying.
argument for Medicare for all, to where we can actually structure
Well,
something where
I will
everybody
tell you,
gets something that's
I will-
equal.
First thing I want you to understand,
Yeah.
Medicare, this much I do know after everything I studied. Under the Medicare system, we lose about 14% on all billing that goes through Medicare at the hospitals. I will tell you that.
in that bill, and I was confused by this, there was an opt-out for senior citizens.
Right.
Correct?
Because of
Medicare.
Correct.
But it didn't explain, in the literature that we got, what that entailed. It's like, if we go along with that, yes, we would pay less insurance, but were we giving anything up? It didn't explain that.
You wouldn't be giving
Yeah.
anything up because Medicare would cover it.
Well, no.
That's what
not-
I was wondering,
that's
was
not
that
true.
the assumption?
And here's part of, and we're hashing over some, but that was, I will tell you, that was my piece of the legislation that got sucked into that bill. There's a lot of things that you gotta understand under Medicare, that you've gotta hit a certain plateau financially, and if you do, Medicare will kick in, so you can't have very many assets, so let's just say.
Medicare or Medicaid?
Medicaid, excuse me.
Yeah.
Medicaid.
There's a big difference.
You gotta be careful on what
Yes.
that is, because it'll drain your assets down. However, the whole thing that comes into it is many people still have wraparound insurance, and if they had wraparound insurance, it's exactly what happens today. I mean, some of us, through our employers that we have wraparound insurance. We should be able to opt out of that, because we don't need it.
Well, you know, I just signed up, I went from Hartford, because I had 2 accidents where I was not at fault, I was hit 2 times.
Right.
Okay, they claim there's some rate in Michigan where they could up me, there's some, which is a bunch of bullshit. I should not have been raised, because neither one of them. I got hit from behind, and then I had a truck come sideways in front of me, like I'm gonna, be able to stop, so. I went to Progressive, and that's what they did. They asked what our insurance coverage was. And we told them it was a retiree Blue Cross Blue Shield, and she said, oh, then you don't really need this. But she made sure that our insurance coverage would cover auto accidents. I got quite a bit of a bigger discount to Progressive.
Very good. And there's a lot of things, we're gonna come back with it, we're gonna work at it. It's an issue and a half that we all know that we've gotta do something. I think each citizen understands that we can't continue on our same auto insurance future that we're heading with.
But you're saying under Medicare, we shouldn't opt for that?
No,
Because
I'm
my
not
husband and I are gonna be Medicare soon, and then we also have.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay, well,
I'm-
you said there, you gotta watch it,
Well,
so.
there's certain things, you've got, and that's where this waiver that we put in, your insurance carrier would say, okay, do you have this, do we have this, and if you check those and you have those, then it's a great option for you. Or if they say, you know what, you don't have
So
this
Medicare
coverage.
actually does work for auto insurance, right?
Yes, it
There
does,
we go, that's what I was asking.
yeah. So
Medicare
there's a
for all
lot,
would be great
there's a
in
lot of
Michigan.
things out there, it'll come back again, it was a great piece, it saved a lot of money for a lot of people.
It's only because people keep borrowing money out of it.
But we're getting there, so we got a lot of work to do with that. It was a good week on the floor. I did have several bills that went through this week. My veterans bill that I've been working on, I think most of you heard, the veterans license plate for the spouse. passes away, the spouse can now retain that plate for a period of time, where before a spouse, within 15 days, had to turn that plate back into the state of Michigan, get a new plate. This will allow them to keep that piece with them for a period of time. It took 9 months to get that bill off the floor and into the Senate chamber, but it's there. The license plate tabs, most of us, I don't know about you, I'm still an old-fashioned person. I go into the Secretary of State, but a lot of people now do it online.
I do mine.
You may not get your tab by your birthday. It gives you 30 days grace if you did it online and it hasn't come to you, as long as you have that printout from the Secretary of State online app. You're free to do it that way. Yep.
What about by mail?
Same thing. If it didn't come by mail, you'll have that, the top form that you'll peel off, you send it back, you keep your other one in your safe.
But
And
you had to send the whole thing in.
I don't remember, well, that's gonna change then, because we work with the Secretary of State if you do it by mail, but you'll be able to print off a form and it'll have it, and you'll be set, so the police, and to be honest with you, you can do it on your phone too. In most cases, the police already have that
I was
information
just
in
gonna
the
say, they
system.
already have that.
They have it within
They have more
24
than you
hours.
think they have.
They have it within 24 hours. I mean, I rode along with the state police and we'd be behind somebody and she could type a license plate in and know that person had proof of insurance and a registration. That's how quick it is. So they have it, but it gives us 30 days so that if they pull you over, you're not gonna get a ticket for that. We did a 3-day hunting license. State of Michigan several years ago dropped a bunch of different license changes. When they did it, they went to a 7-day instead of a 3-day. They failed to put waterfowl in there, so we lost a ton of revenue. We lost a lot of people that would come and visit one of the better states for waterfowl hunting. Our small businesses in those communities didn't get the income, so we rewrote the bill, got it passed, and it's now through the House and into the Senate. The ice shanty bill is done too, yes.
The rate for the 3-day is much less than the 7-day, isn't
Correct,
it?
$50.
And
$50.
the rate for the 7-day is
85.
85, wasn't it much more before?
No, that was what it was before. But they failed to put waterfowl in there, so yes, then you would have had to purchase a waterfowl license to go on top of that, where now this allows you to do waterfowl as long as you buy the duck stand.
I see.
Before, we didn't have that, so it was a separate license, so in technicality, yes, it was more money, quite a bit more money, but as we started digging into it, and it really came, the only reason I ended up working on this is it was from my youngest son. He was out at Fin and Feather, and a person says, "Isn't your dad our state representative?" He goes, "Yeah." "Do you know my sons just came home from the service and they're only visiting me for 3 days and we're gonna rabbit hunt?" Story went on. I said, "Really?" Went back, checked it out, and went, "Holy cow." Worked with the DNR, which is never an easy thing, I will tell you, but we worked really hard and really well together and have built really a pretty solid relationship now that we can kind of talk to each other about certain things, so we got that done. DEQ, I will tell you, we've been battling a little bit with the DEQ. I've been working with Senator Casperson on some issues that affect not only our area but the state, and where we have some of the.
That was one of my questions about House Bill 5095. You voted yes on that to adopt the Coast Guard ballast
Yes.
water discharge permit
Yep.
standards.
Yep.
I'm wondering why you voted yes on that.
Well, that's a very easy reason why I voted yes on that. Number one, we went to the federal standard because of every state around us is at the federal standard. Our standard, even though it was what people said was the state of the art.
We
it
should have been a
was.
leader in it. Yes, we
Well,
were leading in
Right,
it.
hold on,
Yes.
but here's the thing, for 6 years, we said everybody around us is gonna go to our standard. Nobody came to our standard. Actually, the federal government added 4 new steps into treating ballast water, which the state of Michigan refused to do. So basically what was happening is they chose other ports to do business in. And so they discharged their ballast water in Lake Michigan or anywhere in the Great Lakes
In
already.
Chicago.
Anywhere,
Yeah.
all around us, they could discharge their ballast water except for what was considered Michigan. So they wouldn't come into any of our ports to do business, they would go all
So
around.
basically, the corporations pitted, different states against each other to lower ballast
Actually, no,
standards.
that's not true. Actually, the federal government's got a pretty good standard, which is, and the thing is how we wrote this bill is that as these standards increase again, all states will go together, because the federal government will do that. We sat there with 4 ways to treat ballast water, and that was it. And those companies said,
And
there's
we
so many-
expect this administration to put more regulations in? I don't think so.
I think when it comes to the Great Lakes and our surrounding states that work around us, you know, we're all in this together. But you can't be the Lone Ranger and work on it for 6 years and find out that everybody else basically says, beautiful, you can keep doing what you wanna do. We just won't do business in your state. And if you're in Detroit, you can watch it happen every day. We have corn trucking across the bridge to be loaded in Canada.
So it wasn't a matter of those boats would go to, say, Wisconsin and change their ballast water out there,
Oh, yeah.
and then come to Michigan and do
They
business?
could, but once they're ported in Wisconsin, there's no reason to do that.
It's not like a helicopter, that's for sure.
Right, so they would just port somewhere else and discharge if they had to, but most everybody's got ballast water treatments now. Some of the older ships don't, and there's some of the newer styles of the way they treat ballast water that I feel are probably better than what we've had in the past, and we didn't allow that to be done in the state of Michigan, so.
Well, I do get that part, and with new technology, things are gonna get
Right.
better, but in the meantime, we're still corrupting our water. There's always that potential there.
Well, I guess my question would be to you,
Huh?
is we can basically just about hit a golf ball from Detroit, Michigan to Canada. And these boats are treating it a different method right now.
I get that, but it's like sometimes you still have to be a shining example and not lower your standard.
Well, another thing with that too, is if they're hauling cargo, you telling me they're getting a better deal on the cargo in the other 6 states than what Michigan is doing? Are they getting a better deal on refueling costs?
I can't answer those things.
I
but
can't believe that's just because they can't dump their crap in our water, that they're avoiding Michigan.
They
There's
may
gotta
be
be more issues
getting
to
a
it.
lower rate, they could be, but maybe if it all couples together, they find that out.
Yeah.
The thing is, we know that our port business is down considerably when our surrounding states are up.
Yeah, when the water's no good.
Well,
You lose a lot of industries. There's 250,000 jobs in Michigan that depend on the Great Lakes, so.
right, and I'm not arguing that. You gotta remember, every state around us is in the same boat. And the situation goes, if there's 8 ways to treat ballast water, and you choose one of the 8, and everybody around us says, that's great, but Michigan says you can only change and do these 4. If I'm an owner of a company and to put
So that's what I'm saying, the corporations won again.
It's all economics.
Yeah. It's an economic base, it's just, and you know what, the same thing would be,
Yep, money
do
wins.
you buy your gas at Shell? I'm just asking a question,
No,
because they're a penny higher, right?
no, that would be this one, not me.
But we
I buy
know that
convenience
Shell
and
puts an
actually I'm a
extra
loyal
additive
customer.
in their gas.
Well,
to
they get them
help
all
keep-
from the same refinery.
I'm just
It's
saying.
something.
You gotta look at the economic base of what's going on and what happens through the state. And if we're treating and we're getting things done the way that it should properly be done, you penalize a company, and if I can buy my corn for the same price as what it costs in Canada, or in Ohio, or Wisconsin, or Minnesota, or Illinois, or Indiana, and I don't have to spend $1 million on going to one of 4 instead of the 1 in 8 that I currently have, I will tell you, I think each and every one of us would probably go somewhere
No,
else.
not me, I'm an environmentalist, and I will pay the extra price
All right,
for.
we're gonna move on. I'll go to the
organic food.
gentleman in the corner.
Yeah, a lot
Kurt,
of
I
it too.
got a question, this is a totally different subject, but several years ago, the state, they changed the passport program where you can get into state parks, put the sticker on the back of your license plate.
Another one.
They gonna keep that? I mean,
Yes, we
I
are.
like it a lot better than having the sticker on it, you know?
Yes,
Does it
we
bring
are.
in more revenue, and I hope they don't
No,
change it.
we actually, revenue has dropped,
Okay,
but it's starting to catch back up. And we knew that we were gonna have, I actually thought it was going to increase, and when we did this, and they said, well, what do you think? I said, oh yeah, it increased. And actually, we lost about 200,000 our first year of doing that.
okay.
And now we've narrowed that gap, and more people are starting to learn about it, and more people are finding out this is pretty nice.
Yeah.
And the gap is narrowed to the point now where it's almost even,
Okay.
and we expect within the next 5 years that it'll exceed, and it'll continue to go. It's a better, so we are not gonna get rid of that.
Okay. I think it gets people to use the state parks more too.
I agree.
Don't you think? I mean,
I
And even
agree.
if you don't use them, it supports them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct,
Right.
correct. Yeah, so I feel that,
Okay.
you know, and from everything that we've done, I don't see that it'll disappear.
Thanks.
Yes.
Senator Nikoff's bills 584 through 586, how do you feel about the concealed weapons in more expanded areas like schools and preschools and bars and?
You know what, that's a great question. Had that conversation with somebody the other day. And I know the fear that comes with currently under state law, and I wanna make sure everybody understands, currently under state law, we can open carry in a school today.
Yeah, which is insane.
And, you know, I
Open
don't
carry.
know if that, I personally, at this point in time, I haven't read through all the bills. I've breezed through them. I haven't spent a lot of time reading the bill. I know that my first knee-jerk reaction on it is that I don't see a real big issue with the school systems. We had a school system in Mason County that really wanted to have their teachers trained, and they wanted their teachers to carry. So, you know what, I think that we gotta work through our school systems on some of those and make sure that we're following their lead, and we'll move in that direction.
You heard about Dearborn with the daycare center down there where they just had 2 kids shot? Little 3-year-old got hold of a gun in the daycare center? Yeah.
I just have to speak up. I'm married to a former superintendent who had inherited an office with 2 gunshot or bullet holes in the wall, has tussled with adults. I mean, there's no emotional apex greater than when an adult is speaking about their children. I mean, I can't think of a more emotional time, and then to have someone packing a gun in that situation. I hope you reconsider.
As I said, I haven't read through them all yet.
But the gun-free zones, the only people who obey the gun-free zones are law-abiding citizens. The criminals, they don't worry about whether it's gun-free.
But we're not a police state.
Well, then,
Well,
And you're not advocating that we all strap on now.
Yeah, I guess
This
so.
isn't the 1800s.
Shoot them up.
It's not the wild, wild west.
I
But
agree.
if the criminal isn't sure whether there'll be a gun around or not,
Oh,
then,
yeah.
Well, if we wanna take stats, if you take all the stats, gun-free zones currently have the highest rate of gun incidences of any other area.
And there's ways to deflect on that. You can do the metal detectors, you can have security force
And
there,
then-
but for everybody to be able to walk into a
Then-
school with a damn
then-
gun is ridiculous.
if you go through all those
Yeah.
things.
Just
don't
like we
you-
run
don't
the
you-
prison system that I'm retired
don't you
from, we
feel
did
like-
good. Nobody got in there with a gun.
Don't you feel like you're in a police state when you gotta go through metal detectors
Well,
and
we go
everything
through
to
that
go
through the
anywhere?
airport.
Yeah, well, it's just become a way of life now to keep us safe, but it's safer than having damn guns
Guns
on
aren't allowed
everybody's
inside the Capitol.
shoulder.
They're not
Yeah.
allowed inside this courthouse.
Yeah.
It will be under this bill.
We should.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of the Second Amendment, how do you feel about Roy Moore and his molestation accusations?
You know what, that doesn't pertain to me. You know what, I don't even understand.
It does if you have kids.
But, you know,
It does if you care about kids.
You know, but I'm here as a state representative, I don't have control
Well,
over
you
that. And you know what, they're allegations. First off, they're allegations,
And that is so sexist.
but they're allegations.
She is, and it's not just her, there is what, 4 women
4 of
reciting,
them.
yes.
Well,
And
you
this
know,
happens a lot. I am a retired corrections mental health nurse. I worked at the women's prison. I basically worked with men, but I worked at the women's prison for quite a few years, and at Ipsy State with a lot of the mentally ill.
You know what?
And I'll tell you what, the untold stories
Here's
of what
the thing.
happens to young
Here's
girls.
the first thing that I want to
Yeah,
say.
that
This is
people
the
don't
thing
want
that-
to do.
We're throwing our Constitution away. You know, this whole premise our country was built on, you're innocent until you're proven guilty.
And that's why women are starting to step up and they're gonna start filing
You know
charges.
what,
because
I don't
this
have
guy
an issue with
ridiculous.
that.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue
Yeah.
with that, and if he's found guilty, that's a different
There's
situation.
not gonna be any court hearings at this time. This happened so long ago.
Yeah.
But you talk to probably 6 or 7 out of 10 women, and you're
Okay.
gonna find that this is quite prevalent.
I have a question
Yeah.
for you.
Yes, we'll move
I have
on.
a question for you. Do you think any of your additional amendments that you added into the no fault affected the outcome of the no fault vote?
It gained us 5 votes.
So you gained votes
We
with your
gained votes
amendments?
instead of lost votes. It would not have even put up on the board if my amendments hadn't been put in there.
Who investigates auto fraud? How is it done and what success?
Right now,
Yeah.
DIFs, the Department of Insurance and Fraud does it, DIFs.
Is
And
that a
they-
governmental agency?
We do have a governmental agency. We have stepped that up, but I will tell you, very minimally. I think last year, we prosecuted 53 cases only. And out of the 53, I believe we won on all but a handful.
I think fraud is really running rampant
Well, they're-
in this,
I
in
already-
this state anyways,
The
because of
unassigned,
the
the
unlimited.
unassigned claims portion of our insurance system. A short period of time, it was $50 million. This year, it's gonna exceed $250 million. And unassigned claims is basically, if we don't know where to throw somebody, if they were in an accident, let's say they were walking and we found them laying on the side of the road. They say, well, I think it might have been an auto accident. We have no idea, or that person's there, it said it was hit by a car, we don't know, they get thrown into unassigned claims and we pay that. Cost the average insurance person about $40 a year right now, and our personal cost to pay for the unassigned claims issue. We know that we have 7.1 drivers, licensed drivers. We know that we have 6.3 million people that buy insurance, so we know that we got a little over 1 million people basically that don't buy insurance. But yeah, the amendments that we put on gained us votes.
Do you know how that compares, Curt, to the overall,
Or,
our uninsured motorists compared to the rest of the country?
yeah, our uninsured is about, if you take the state average, if you take the whole state, we're at about 23%. Nationally, it's about 14%. So we're about 10% higher than any other state.
Wouldn't you think in this day and age that with the computer systems we have, when people sign up for the 1-day insurance thing and then cancel, that should be reported to some kind of a database and tracked? Wouldn't
You know
one
what,
take?
you agree 100% with what I proposed, and I mean,
In this
let
day and
me,
age, I mean,
right,
it's like,
let me
yeah.
explain this. This is, I'm glad to hear that you're talking this way, because this is exactly what I wanna hear. I feel very strongly that we can do daily reporting
Yes, we
from
can.
our insurance agent to the Secretary of State, which would mean within 24 hours, a person is known in the system of they're insured or uninsured.
Correct.
We know that people buy a policy for 6 months, they run it they prepay for their month,
Cancel it.
cancel it, and they run for the full year, and then the next year they go to another insurance company, buy a policy, they do it all over again. I proposed that in the system, that person that comes in that canceled insurance, because we can do it, look it up and they go, oh, Jane Doe bought insurance last year, ran it for a month, canceled her insurance, here she is again. We know this is a pattern. We say minimum 6 months. We can put a minimum on there of 6 months or whatever it is. We're already following up with letters now when people come and they go uninsured, and we say, hey, you've been 14 days without any insurance.
Your
We're already
license should
doing
be
it, but this is part of the fraud side. It's chasing people down. But there's ways to do it.
Manpower.
The problem goes, exactly what you proposed. When I proposed that, I had people that looked at me and they said, you can't do that. I said, why? You're taking away a person's right.
You're not taking away a person's right to do
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. We
I
agree,
agree with you.
we agree. I'm just telling you.
Because now you're messing with other people when they get in an accident and they're not covered.
See, this is
Yeah.
what there's a difference where we're not meeting in the middle and saying, wait a minute.
It is a right
you
to
and I
drive, and you have
It's
to be
not a
insured.
right. It's a privilege.
I mean, excuse me, it's a privilege, sorry, I said that wrong, it's a privilege to drive.
You're taking away my right.
Right,
You violate the law.
you're taking away my right when you're driving without insurance to be covered. I don't even like on no fault in Michigan,
Okay,
I
we're
really
gonna
don't.
jump off
Yeah.
auto no fault, cause I might
Yeah.
grow hair back. Yes,
Just
sir.
one more on that. Every time that I've had a loan on a car, I've had to maintain car insurance on it.
Correct.
Or the bank, credit union, whatever, would go after me. Don't you get any cooperation from them or could
Every
they?
one of the insurance agents that I talk to wants this to go through. They want some type, because there's a couple things that happen. Number one, they have no loyalty left, because our auto insurance is expensive and ridiculous. And when people are doing this, all they're doing is switching back and forth, just trying to, they know, and you know, and I will tell you, 30 days, I will tell you, I lived no fault insurance, and I joked around with people and I said, at least you gave me Sunday off. This is very true. I get a phone call from one particular person every day at 8:01. Every single day.
Obsessed, huh?
8:01. And he would answer the phone. He says, how you doing today, sunshine? And that's how he started. And he would battle with me for 10 minutes every single day about vote no. And the next day he'd call me again. And I answered the phone because and he would bring up certain points of the bill, and that was fine. But I will tell you, it is a struggle for us to understand that the pressures that go with some of the decisions, but I agree 100%. The fraud side of this, in my feeling very strongly, is the fraud. We need to attack it. We need to attack that before the everyday person. I think if we got rid of the fraud, we would see a reduction in our costs just because of what it is. But to get to point, we have people out there, this insurance guy called me and he says, Curt, he says, I'm gonna tell you right now, he says, I don't like what's about to happen because I'm paid on commission. You're gonna cost me X amount of dollars. I know that means that I'm probably gonna have to lay a person off and then I'm gonna make some personal sacrifice. However, it's the right thing to do, because he says, I will tell you, I have people out there that I know that are my customers that have canceled their insurance because they had to make a choice. Do I put food on the table for my family, or do I put insurance or take a chance? And that's what and you know what, when I heard it the first time from somebody that said it, I didn't believe it. But when I talked to this person, and I know him personally, and he says, this is a serious issue right now. He says, I know that I can give better protections to some of my customers. If they could save their insurance, I could give them another piece that would take care of their family if they expired. I'm just gonna put it, he says, it pains me right now to see the choices people have to make. And the same thing when I had this young lady that spoke to the committee, and she says, you're forcing us to drive dirty. And I said to her, I said, what do you mean drive dirty? She says, you're making us violate the law. You're making us violate the law because I cannot afford to buy unlimited insurance.
And it is kind of, I get it, like, especially down in Detroit, they have some of the highest insurance rates, I think, in the nation.
Well,
I was
they
like,
redline.
how do people friggin' afford that? I do get that.
But
But if we go after the fraud, hopefully we can get the rates reduced.
right, and the fraud is a big thing, but I will tell you,
Yeah,
is
and
you
medical.
look at fraud, and this is where you're gonna find out, and I can just tell you, in my bill, there's gonna be a pretty solid piece in fraud in there, and it will cause, and each one of us in this room probably, or the majority in this room, thinks we need to do something on fraud.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to the floor, I will tell you that if you were to run just a fraud bill, because we already did it, it failed. It didn't even come to a vote because there was that.
Well, who would be investigating the fraud? The insurance companies or would the state agency?
We would actually start a fraud authority, a full fraud authority.
Years ago, back in the 90s, when they did a big, what they call downsizing for the state employees, a lot of people that lost their jobs were investigators for the different medical insurance fraud, the welfare frauds. A lot of those guys were given their walking papers, laid off. And they consolidated areas to do that to where they were spread out even thinner.
This would actually, just so you know, how the fraud authority was proposed to be set up, is it's 14 people under the current bill. It was 14 people that are from different regions, different occupations that sit on this, that aren't a full-time employee by the state. They come in and just look at these things, and some are from the insurance, some are from the healthcare, some are retired police officers, some are, so it's an outside group that, it's be run by the state, but it's an outside group that's not influenced by what it is, and then but we can talk a long time on fraud, and it's a brutal battle, but I feel you. Just so you know, I feel you. Yes, ma'am.
Last month, we talked a little bit about the fairness of higher education being paid out of the education budget.
Which is a separate budget of what they get paid. It's in the education budget, but it is separate than the K through 12.
Yeah. They haven't been paid out of there until probably it's been 12 years, 15 years?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was changed out of that portion back when Jennifer Granholm was governor.
Yeah. Do you think it's fair that they're paid out of the education fund?
Well, they increased the fund to put them in there. I guess it's long. Here's my deal: the K through 12 needs to be maintained and taken care of. We can go into a bunch of arguments about state universities, and
Their alumni
I don't know.
funds.
I don't know if I want to brace and get into another discussion about philosophies on higher education, but, you know, my feeling is that, you know, K through 12 needs to be its own separate piece. It shouldn't be influenced or taken away for higher education. Just so, and I would love to see a piece of skilled trades be inside that as maybe a portion of that higher education budget.
Great.
That's what I'd like to see.
I thought,
Good.
I was just wondering, are you a member of the American Legislative Exchange Council?
No. Don't, to be honest with you, then what is it?
You don't know what ALEC is?
No, I've never heard of it. You're the first one that's
It's
ever brought it up.
attorneys that represent corporations to introduce legislation throughout the states and the United States. 501(c)(3).
Well, 501c3s, I guess I've never heard it as, I'm not a member of that, so. I heard somebody say something.
on that, I thought back when they did the combination of putting higher education in that, was if they got the state money, they had to hold down the tuition cost. If they were gonna go ahead and keep raising the tuition costs, then they weren't gonna get the state money.
That's true.
And there were a few of them that were still violating that and getting away with it. So, now,
You're drawing me into the conversation I didn't want to be brought into today, because this is a battle that I go through all the time, that there's dollars being put in there, our increases inside our higher education are ridiculous. The teaching model is ridiculous. The expansion of the other things that, if you go to, there's a lot of things I can talk about. I feel that we need to make sure, and it goes right back to what I said, the skilled trades are a part of higher ed, and we need to make sure that we start to promote that, and that money we need to figure out how we can take it out of that higher ed budget, because it's extremely important that we start, and if it's inside that system, whatever it is, it's extremely important, so.
it'd be nice to see the schools start offering shop classes again, and home ec, and, you know.
Through our ISDs, we're working, I will tell you, that is, financially, inside our school systems, it becomes very difficult to offer some of these things that we had when we grew up. And I'm just gonna say it because most of us are the same age inside this room. I grew up in shop class, wood class, welding class, metals class, I mean, we had it all. And yeah, we did it all. The cost in the way the technology is moving becomes very expensive, so it needs to be located where we can have multiple systems using it, where the state can assist in making sure that the technology stays at a level of being where it's at. So that's why it will be very hard for us to move it through districts, because it's so expensive nowadays.
Well, insurance costs.
Have you heard of Moran's Iron Works up in Onaway?
Yes.
They
I
actually
sure
have a technology.
They sure do.
Yeah, I said, yep, that is just awesome up there.
They're training their,
Fuel steel workers.
I will tell you yes, and their welders,
Yep.
their welders are making an unbelievable amount of money when they come out of that.
I would say this would be nice to see some of the corporations step up and start some of these
Well, we do, and
programs.
there are more doing that.
Yep.
I will tell you that, because
That's really a
that's the
great
only way
program
they
up there.
can, that's the only way they can fill their
Yeah,
vacancies.
they have to, they're forced into it.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I know
Well, it's a
that
way of
we've
giving
got.
back to society too. I mean, you know, to get some kids
You
trained.
know, it's,
Yeah,
Maybe
it's,
need a
it's a
program.
way for them to survive.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, that's a deal.
Yeah, and I know that we have one that is over in the Gaylord area, basically out of a need to continue to be able to be a business. They actually started it. The majority of the people come to work for them because they can just go through the class, go right into it.
Right.
Perfect example is West Shore Community College. We have a welding, it allows 100 students right now, and it's part of the expansion. They're maxed out, they cannot take any more students. It runs from morning until 10 o'clock at night. The class is full. So I mean, we are getting there, we see the needs. We just gotta, work through it. Same thing with West Shore with the nursing side. an expansion. The two expansions we're doing is the welding side and the nursing side.
I had to wait 2 years. There was a waiting list of 2 years for me when I went to nursing school, so, yeah. And then it got even greater. Some students were waiting 3-4 years, so, it's good to see they're kind of bringing in some more programs.
Who else got a question for me?
I'll look back to the insurance thing real quick. You said something about 1 million uninsured drivers in Michigan?
Yes.
Do you know what the correlation is between uninsured drivers and the poverty level in this state? By any chance? I mean, I was sort of surprised to hear that you weren't really aware or believed that, poverty was a reason people were defrauding on their insurance.
Well, I don't think that I ever said poverty wasn't, but I believe what I said is that people have made a choice.
Right.
But that's the driving factor.
Well, you know what, they make a choice, there's a lot of people that make choices in life to do a lot of different things, and I.
By beer.
Right, I am not in the position to say that, but yes, I will say that we know in certain areas, it's a financial choice that they have to make, because if your insurance is $5,600, and I'm making 40 grand and I've got 2 children, I'm making a decision. I'm gonna drive dirty, or I'm not. Or if I would have given them an offer and they could have bought PLPD or the basic insurance, what a lot of us grew up on and we knew what it is, and that insurance cost me, my personal protection insurance cost me 40% less, and all of a sudden I'm $2,000 or $2,400 instead of $5,000, then we're making choices where people are making choices on their
When you're
personal.
taking a chance on not being covered in a catastrophe.
But I mean,
That's always in there with that choice.
so, I mean, I'm sure, we can look anything around, but, some people are gonna make that, yes.
Do you see any movement in distant legislation for skilled trades involvement in education?
Yes.
So because, it seems like it goes in waves.
It already
You know,
started.
and,
We have a series of bills, and one of them is mine that we passed earlier, still stalled in the Senate right now. I've asked for mine to be pulled out of that group because it really pertains to the school systems this year. When our 8th graders graduate this year, my piece gave them an option to do some skilled trades for some educational pieces instead of Algebra 1 or Algebra 2, and they could take some other skilled trade classes that pertain to that. But the school systems have to know, because I will tell you that if it doesn't get passed here shortly, it'll be pushed too late, and that young person's gonna be in this, basically corralled or held into the same standard it is today. And it just sets us back once again another year, and I'm nervous about that.
So you're saying that the trend is to drift toward the colleges for that additional training, then that are already set up for it?
The way that we've got it right now, it doesn't give them the option to move into the skilled trade side. It still pushes them into that 4-year university education side.
So would a percentage of the money allotted for K-12 education be drifted towards a college then? If they're gonna go and use the college?
Well,
Is that what-
no, the K through 12 right now isn't, it wouldn't be what we'd like to see in the higher edu. I think that's where you're driving at, that they chose to move into that skill.
Yeah, well, if you're a
There's gonna be
10th
some-
grader and you wanna use, you wanna go to West Shore for 4 hours or Wexford for 4 hours a day, would a percentage of their, the $700 to $800 per student
That,
get drifted towards a college?
it doesn't currently, but that's what we'd like to see happen. We'd like to see some of those dollars follow them into the skilled trade side, if that's what their path is. And we've got to work through that, so if we don't want it to come, personally, we've got to maintain our K through 12 system, but we've got to figure out where that other piece of dollar comes in to help. Yes, sir?
Aren't those teachers that are teaching those skilled trades paid by the ISD anyways? They're ISD employees.
Some, yeah, there's still some schools that have shop, ISDs are a big part of it.
Yeah.
Right, and they are currently. But as we start to grow that, we need to follow some of that, and that's where, because some of them we want, my ultimate goal is once they're out of high school, if we have a program, then we need to have some dollars there to help enable them to be trained to the next
A
level.
little bit further, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's kind of where we're trying to drive at right now.
Wouldn't it be a logical move to, I think in the past, they used, there was an organization in Traverse City that used to call on me, because I was always looking for skilled people.
Yeah.
And I thought that they would pay me a percentage of their wage for training. Basically like an apprenticeship
co-op.
type thing.
Co-op,
Yeah.
and actually, ironically, I'm glad you brought that up, because we just talked about that in Scottville, and the superintendent was there. And the same thing, the superintendent said, you know, we're working, and we just met last week with the state superintendent. We had all the superintendents from the districts, even the superintendent from Manistee came down for the 21st century learning that we're working on trying to develop. And that's exactly what it is. It's bringing co-op back in again, where these young people could actually go to work for somebody a few hours a day, but still receive credit. And this is where the package goes, still receive credit towards a high school diploma. And these businesses would work with them to give them some of this training, give them some hands-on so that they could learn some skills, not only the skilled trades, but it could be somebody come in and work inside a system here, learn some of these things, so.
Well, with the movement of technology so fast, you know, I can understand where the high schools and they just can't afford it. I mean, you can dump a couple $1 million into a shop program like nothing.
Right.
And
Outdated.
industry already has it set up. You know, it would seem it'd be more logical to organize it through industry and have somebody in charge of that, because one issue I had was that, you know, I mean, I pretty well had to do the whole thing myself. Well, I was busy running a business. I didn't have time to play with that stuff.
Nope.
And it would be good if there would be somebody in charge of that whole organization, because PCA is looking for skilled people all the time. All the plants are, I know they are, they're no different than I was. So, you know, I'd like to see a move in that direction as compared to try to hit us with another village for another shop program in the high schools, basically.
Nope, and I agree with you on that, I really do, because that's a really, I mean, I grew up with it. You know,
Yeah, I did.
I
When it
grew
was
up in
nice.
Grand Rapids, and we actually, it was called Kent Skills Center, and even in Grand Rapids, it was huge. And then, through some of our educational changes, it just dissolved that whole program. And because of too many stipulations on certain college credits, and so they just, student couldn't be gone for that 2 hours in the afternoon or whatever. And so it basically.
How was
dissolved.
Wexford so successful?
Through their Baker College.
Just through Baker? They're
Baker is
basically
phenomenal.
footing it, right?
Yeah, and they passed the millage. Baker has been unbelievable. One of the strongest, even Traverse City there, they have a pretty good program. We just need to all get on board again, and I think we're getting that movement. Yeah, we're getting there. All right, it's getting close to noon, folks, so I got a couple more questions, and
I just wanted to say that Manistee has a wonderful wood shop, but they had trouble getting a certified teacher,
oh, really?
you know.
Yeah, well, I know.
Can't they use, people from the businesses
By the way.
for,
Certified teacher.
cause, when I went, especially where it was a community college in Washtenaw, a lot of our instructors came from, Ford and GM, and they didn't have teacher certification. They had the business acumen and the experience.
I think the unions might have something to do with certification.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I will tell you that I met with a group down in Lansing here 2 weeks ago on all the trade stuff, and I know that I met with them again, and I asked if they would be willing to ever come north and do a career trades day in some of our school systems, because most of these organizations are down in the southern part. And they said, boy, we've never gone that far. And I said, well, you're missing the boat. We need you to come up. So they're gonna get back to me, but this is exactly what we need to start them in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, not 9, 10, 11, 12. These kids, these young adults, the students, I should say, because they're not really adults yet, need to touch this stuff when they're young, because if they get that spark when they're, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, we could, and it helps bring them in. And once again, it comes to, we've got a county that's split in half. You got rural on the east side, and you don't on this side, and the infrastructure of our east side has got to catch up to our west side. Because our potential for growth and where we have workforce is on the east, but we have a very, I'm gonna say it's a behind on the infrastructure. We don't have natural gas, we don't have, internet, and to run businesses today, in our school systems today, we need to have these things, so. I'm with you 100% on that. Got time for one last question, and then I have got to roll. But I do appreciate everybody being here today, and I want to wish you a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you for coming.
You bet, thank you.
You were nice to me.
You were. See you, man.
Oh, good evening. This is Mike Tillison. I'm at the bungalow, the November meeting of the Tea Party tonight. We're going to be talking about opiates.
We're just up here.
Yeah, wherever you stop.
Okay, let's go with our nice little group this afternoon, evening. Let's start with,
It's working.
okay,
Good.
you got it?
I turned you down.
All right, let's begin with a prayer. Dear Lord, as we gather for this meeting, give us the use of your gift of peace and understanding that we may approach the matters we must handle with sincere and just hearts. May you watch over and guide our discussions and actions as we work for the betterment of our community, our state, and our country. Keep us always true to the principles on which the United States was founded. We ask this in your name. Amen. Please pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, just as you're all aware, this is our last meeting of the year. We'll be meeting next time on Thursday, January 18th. And I think we might as well just get started with Karen Goodman and Sarah Garth.